We are here today to introduce the Alpha, the Omega, the Mac Daddy, the OG of all mimics, the classic mimic or treasure chest mimic. This mimic commonly presents itself as a locked treasure chest or sometimes a storage container. The mimic hunts its prey as a sort of living trap, luring creatures close while remaining motionless and virtually indistinguishable from ordinary objects. Their patient exterior hides a hungry, savage beast who happily enjoys making a meal out of any and unwary adventurer. They are greedy, quintessential opportunists, consuming anything from animals to humanoids to even their own master, if given the opportunity. Should a traveler or a unseemingly knowing adventurer manage to vanquish one of these tricky atrocities, any potential rewards, unfortunately, can be claimed from the convenience of the creature's decidedly gooey innards. I'm also just gonna throw this in there. These guys are ugly. They have wide varieties of eyes and eyeballs and can have anywhere from one to hundreds of eyeballs, depending on the size of the mimic. They often have spikes or horns, sometimes protruding bones, and even small limbs. Some are known to have giant legs and arms that just protrude out of the side of them, and they crawl on the ground in just grotesque monstrosities. They often have a colossal mouth capable of opening to unforeseen dimensions. So, a common thing in this mimic and many of its fellow cousins are its tongue. These mimics have a long purple, blue, green, or reddish ooey gooey tongue, often 5 foot in length, that they just love to lash out and grab their victims. Classic mimics often secrete a sticky goo or substance that adheres to anything that touches the mimic on initial contact. Some varieties might also have resistance or immunity to damage types, such as acid or poison, seeing as how they are often made of those types or their secretions contain those types. Mimics often lash out with that tongue to attempt to grapple their victims in order to get a nice chomp on their tasty flesh for a nice snack or meal, or just because they're bored. Classic mimics are usually wooden in appearance with varying metal adornments, and sometimes they have a lock. So, what do you do when you come across a mimic? Well, if you come across a mimic with a lock, know that some mimics are enchanted to be a trap set up by their owner or master. And in these cases, they might have a way to get around them, perhaps a code word or a spell. You could even probably open them with a high enough lock-picking skill. Successfully opening that lock will usually render that mimic passive, and any such treasures within will be very readily available. Now, what should you do should you come across one of these guys in a dark, dank dungeon? Well, be aware coming across a single, solitary treasure chest, as tempting as it can oftentimes be a mimic. Also, it kind of depends on your DM, your dungeon master, and maybe his mood for the night. But, if it looks too good to be true, the word of advice is, it probably is, stay away. Unless you have a confident party that you guys can successfully kill it. A mimic is virtually indistinguishable from any ordinary object, and their patience is second to none, aka throwing a rock at one might not necessarily wake it up. They are very patient creatures and will wait for you to approach them. Our last bit of advice is maintain your distance. These guys have a very long physical attack range, usually because of their tongue, or sometimes they can throw things at you. But should you wish to be safe, attack it from afar. Well, that concludes our introduction to the Alpha, the Omega, the number 1 classic treasure chest mimic. We will be releasing new mimics every week, and we hope that you will join us in supporting our Kickstarter for the Mimics of Malice and Mayhem, Volume 1, a playable card deck of 36 unique mimic designs and concepts that can be used for playing your favorite roleplay games or tabletop games such as Dungeons & Dragons. You can stay up to date with us on our journey by following us on Instagram and Facebook at titans.dawn. We thank you for your time, and we really hope you enjoyed our mimic. Thank you.